Right now, I'm at the Yale School of Management. In this video, I'm going to talk about everything I learned at Yale Business School, and we're going to break down this video into 4 main parts. The first part is going to be how you can get into the school yourself. The second part is going to be the top opportunities you get outside of an MBA program. The third part is going to be the soft skills you learn and the important things you need to know to get that dream job you're looking for. And the fourth part is going to be some of the classes you take during your time here. So let's start off with the program overview. Now, Yale is one of the top schools in the United States, and it's well renowned for having a top 3 undergraduate university, having the best law school in the United States, along with the drama school, and having a top 10 MBA program. It goes without saying that it's very difficult to get into this school. However, with such a great school comes a very expensive tuition, and students are currently paying over $85,000 for just a single year of attending the school here. But the true question is it really worth it? And in this video, you'll come to the decision as to whether or not pursuing a top MBA program is worth it for you. If you're new to business school, I want to explain what the concept of an MBA degree is. Essentially, you go and work for about 3 to 7 years in the job market, and you decide that you want to level up in terms of your financial career. In fact, you can even completely change your career by pursuing an MBA program. So people, after around 3 to 5 years of experience, end up deciding that they want to go back to graduate school and get their Master's of Business Administration degree. And that is something that Yale School of Management is very well known for. The campus that you see here is brand new and has been made in the last 20 years as a very beautiful and modern design. People decide to pursue an MBA program because some of the career opportunities you get make it very worth it. For example, like myself, I was working as an accountant for around $100,000 a year. But after MBA program, you can go and work as a consultant or an investment banker and get close to making $300,000 a year. So though tuition is very expensive and you have to give up 2 years of time to get a degree here, it's well worth it if you think about the longevity of your career and the more income you're gonna make during that time. Again, I'm gonna have a more detailed breakdown in my channel, so let's move on to the second part. I think one of the most important things with pursuing an MBA degree are the career opportunities available to you. Let's talk about the top 5 careers that people pursue out of an MBA program. And I'll make a caveat, the most common are the first 2. The top 2 careers that people pursue out of an MBA program like Yale's is consulting and investment banking. Now, this varies from school to school, and the Yale School of Management is more so known for their career opportunities with consulting. So the top 3 consulting firms are McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, but that also doesn't exclude other companies like Ernst & Young and Deloitte Consulting, which are also very strong options. People who pursue an MBA for an opportunity of working in consulting will have a great time at Yale because the consulting club here is one of the best in the world. You get the opportunity to interview with top consulting firms in New York, including McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. And these employers actually come to our campus to recruit. You have opportunities to get coffee chats with people who currently go and work for these firms, and they come here and see if you'd be a great part of their company. At Yale, you get world-class training from second-year students who have already done the recruiting themselves, and they're going to teach you all the fundamentals when it comes to things like casing and soft skills you need to know during your time interviewing. The second one is investment banking, and this is something I spent a majority of my time with during my first year. While I was recruiting for investment banking my first year, there are many times that I had to skip class and take the train during the week to go and have coffee chats with employers. But attending a top MBA program like Yale, you're going to have a first-hand experience with interviewing with the top investment banking companies, including companies like Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and JP Morgan. You're not limited to just working on New York. Though it's going to be difficult, you have virtual Zoom calls that you could partake within in companies in SF and LA and other places as well. In fact, there is a large majority of my classmates who went to work for places like Los Angeles, Chicago, and SF. So don't think that you're limited just to New York by pursuing a Yale MBA degree. Know that investment banking and consulting recruiting takes a lot of time in terms of technical due diligence. You're going to have to spend a lot of time studying and learning the technicals for these 2 careers, and that's going to become something you do in unison with your classes. For the third main job that people get outside of a Yale MBA degree, that is going to be working in tech. The reason why people don't pursue tech as often is because it's harder to get. But when you consider that they make nearly as much as consultants and investment bankers and work many less hours, it seems like the perfect career. However, in 2025, with all these AI layoffs we're seeing, it's not as easy of a career to get. First of all, the job opportunities are more limited, and you're worried about whether or not your job is going to exist within 3 years. So tech is a great job to get outside of the Yale MBA program, but the spots are going to be much more limited. With that said, there's a lot of people I know that were able to get an internship with Amazon and go there for full time. And even one of my classmates got an internship working for Apple. So there are definitely opportunities you have to work in tech if that is what you'd like to do after your MBA degree. For the fourth main thing people pursue outside of an MBA degree, it's entrepreneurship. Now, of course, as an entrepreneur, you can choose to do that outside of an MBA degree, but at a school like Yale, you get world-class training on business fundamentals and get the opportunity to network with people who have done entrepreneurship and have become very successful. In fact, the co-founder of Honest Tea, a multi-million-dollar brand, is one of the professors at Yale. So you get a fantastic opportunity to learn from world-class professors and surround yourself with a network of like-minded individuals. And for the fifth career opportunity, we're going to talk about broader finance. There's a lot of opportunities that you can get in working as a CFO or a controller, or even doing something like FP&A or business development. And that is why people pursue an MBA degree, is because finance is very versatile and the options you are going to get are nearly unlimited. With this versatility, you have many options to pursue a fantastic career outside of your MBA program. And when you take into account the fact that you'll be making much more money by having a master's degree, it makes an MBA degree worth it. So now we're going to talk about what I consider to be the most important part of pursuing an MBA degree at Yale. And that is the soft skills that you learn and how to really interview and succeed in job interviews. One thing that Yale is great for is they have the opportunity to interview with hundreds of different companies and have hundreds of different coffee chats. But before I explain, let me explain to you what the concept of a coffee chat is. So imagine that you're a company looking to hire people for a summer internship or for a full-time job afterwards. You're going to have to figure out if this person in front of you knows what they're talking about and is a good culture fit for the firm. So what you have is different coffee chats. This is about a 30-minute call that you set up, likely over Zoom or even in person, where you get to know the person that you're interviewing. And during this time, employers are looking for fundamental things like, does this person know what they're talking about, their past work experience and their resume? And also, are they going to be a good culture fit for the firm? You have to learn to be highly agreeable and adaptable with different employers and different people that are going to interview you during your time. People, when they think of pursuing an MBA degree, think that it's all about the classes that you take. But the classes that you take are going to be the same across any different MBA program. The reason why you want to go to a great program like Yale's is so that you can develop your brand and get a fantastic school on your resume. You can get taught from world-class professors about the same subjects that you'll learn across any other program, but also the fact that you'll have the opportunity to interview with some of the top employers in the world. You need to learn to become very good at interviewing, because even at a school like Yale, competition is very fierce. Out of the investment banking program that I was recruiting within my first year, only half of the people who were recruiting ended up getting job offers. And of course, work experience comes into play. You know, as one who had only 3 years of work experience, I had a much more tough time recruiting for investment banking than someone who had 7 years of experience. But much more than that is culture fit, and interviewers want to know that you'll fit into the company that they work for. So despite technicals or having a great resume under your belt, you need to focus on being a great culture fit and learning to be a successful interviewer with a firm. Becoming a successful interviewer takes a lot of reps, and you're going to learn that your first few interviews are likely going to feel awkward and somewhat rehearsed. My advice is have these mock interviews with your classmates, because they also want to be successful at interviewing just like you. Find a friend or two that you can feel comfortable around and have mock interviews where you're going to become much more comfortable with the idea of being quizzed on different questions that employers are going to want to ask you. And of course, employers understand that this is somewhat of a rehearsed interview. Though it's fit as a coffee chat, they're really interviewing you for the firm. After a few interviews, you'll learn that you'll become much more successful. So really get that practice under your belt if you want to get a top job offer by the time you finish an MBA program. Now we're going to talk about the classes and schedule at Yale Business School. Most MBA programs are 2 years long, and at Yale, the first year is going to be a very structured curriculum, so you don't have a lot of say in terms of the classes that you end up taking. During your second year, you're going to have the option to take classes at any part of Yale. So as a second year student, I'm going to be taking classes from the law school, the Jackson School, and also the undergraduate university. But the best part is that I have the freedom of choice in terms of what classes I want to pursue during my time. Let's go back to the first year for a second. During your first year, you're going to have a structured set schedule of the classes that you are required to take and pass to get an MBA degree. Out of the 350 MBA students at Yale, they are split up into 5 different cohorts. You're going to take your first year classes with the cohort that you are a part of. So you're going to become very close to the students within your cohort during your first year. An example of some of the classes you take during your first year are Innovator, Customer, Operations Engines, Basics of Accounting, Introduction to Negotiation, and much more. We're going to go over some of these classes to show you an example of some of the things you learn at Yale Business School. But I want to make one important point. If you pursue a top business school like Yale only for the classes that you're going to take, you're doing it all wrong. A lot of these top MBA programs teach you the same things, and nowadays, a lot of that education is completely free online. The reason why people pursue an MBA degree is to network with top employers and give themselves a real opportunity to expedite their earning potential within their career. A lot of the people that you'll meet within an MBA program are going to become future leaders of companies. So focus on expanding your network and making close friendships during your time here. But with that said, let's go back to some of the classes and what you're going to learn during your time there. Let's start off with Operations Engine. At Operations Engine, you're going to learn about manufacturing a product and all the limitations that come with it. I want you to imagine that you're producing coffee. In the beginning, you're going to start with all the raw materials, and then those raw materials are going to go to the manufacturing plant, and then perhaps they're going to get skinned or cleaned. And then perhaps after the manufacturing plant, they have to be taken elsewhere to become a cleaner product. Then they're going to become further refined, eventually packaged, and then shipped to their customers. Now, these are 6 stages of product creation. And at Operations Engine, we focus on a mathematical approach to finding bottlenecks within a company and finding optimal production quantities. For example, let's say you want to produce 1,000 coffee bags each month at your manufacturing plant, but at the manufacturing plant, you're only able to produce 700. Whereas the other 5 stages of production don't have that same limitation. Now you've identified your bottleneck. That second stage of production is the thing prohibiting your growth from where you'd like it to be. So at Operations Engine, you learn to identify the bottlenecks within your production capabilities for your good. Let's talk about another class I took during my time there, and that is Introduction to Negotiation. I can't think of a single class that people didn't want to go to, but for me, I consider it to be one of the most important classes I took during my time at Yale. A lot of people, when they hear the word negotiation, don't enjoy the idea of it, but negotiation is fundamental to becoming a successful business executive in the future. You have to learn to create value and how to appropriately split that value between all parties involved. And the approach we take at Yale Business School is very different from what is taught at other business schools. One of the professors of this class was the co-founder of Honest Tea, a very successful company that has raised millions of dollars and eventually sold itself to another company. This professor created the topic of splitting the pie. I want you to imagine it like this. Let's say you and I, we do a business deal, and by working together, we are able to create $500,000 of value. However, let's say you own a very large brand and I just provide for you the product. So you provide me a lot more value in terms of marketing and distribution than I do by providing you a product that, for example, has many different competitors. The approach marketed by the professor is that we split the $500,000 rather than you taking a majority. The idea why is because by working together, we create that value. So we are there to split it 50-50. Now, this is a very controversial approach and it is not one that many people agreed with, but it is the approach taught at Yale. So at Yale, you learn to split the pie and are introduced to a fundamental difference in the way that you handle negotiations in the future. Another class we took is customer. At customer, you learn the most important part of a business, which is understanding the problems that your customer wants solved by purchasing your product. Many companies and people who aren't successful entrepreneurs believe that it's all focused on the product. But at this class, you're taught the importance of case studies, as well as creating forms to understand what your customers are looking for with the problems they want solved and what kind of product they expect. You learn to take on a very customer-centric approach and prioritize what the customer is looking for in the product you develop rather than what you as the founder expect. Like many other top business schools, Yale Business School prioritizes the case method, and we learn from other companies and cases and how we could apply that to our education and future as an entrepreneur. For example, one of the cases that we learned during our time here was that of a website called stick.com. Now, stick.com was created as a website for people to commit to the goals that they set for themselves. For example, let's say you want to focus on losing weight. Through the use of stick.com, the platform would help you find someone to make you commit to your goal. A lot of people who make these goals for themselves, like losing a certain amount of pounds by the end of the year, have difficulty maintaining that ideation. A lot of people lose interest with their goals and find that life is too busy to stick to the commitments they make. However, by using stick.com, they had an opportunity to commit to the goal and be held liable financially. You had to actually put money up to the website in terms of a financial commitment that you are going to pursue the goal that you set out for yourself. Why was this case important? Because in this case, we learned about a customer-centric approach to building the website and what customers wanted. A lot of the innovations that were grown on the platform came from customer-recommended approaches. For example, the financial commitment created by the website was suggested by one of the users of the platform, and it significantly increased the number of people who would stick to the goals that they set for themselves. So at Customer, we learned from a variety of different case studies, including that of stick.com, and learned why building a business under a customer-centric approach is fundamental. Another class we took during my first year core curriculum was Innovator. A lot of people significantly underestimate the importance of innovation with business nowadays, and especially in 2025, with the advent of AI, technology is completely changing the working world as we know it. A lot of companies focused on the AI sector are getting millions and billions of dollars nowadays, so it's very important to focus on innovation. Here are some of the questions asked and answered during this class. How can I identify and analyze opportunities? How do I identify and analyze my initial market and customers? How do I identify and test the underlying assumptions under my business model? Much of innovation is created through startups because established firms have a very different culture. By suggesting a radically new approach to the current business, you're going to be ostracized as an outsider, and it's going to be very difficult to push for a new idea within an established firm. However, startups are focused on a very different way of working, and they prioritize new ideas and opportunities for growth. That is why a lot of innovation is psychologically done under new ventures, because established firms have a way of doing things, and by putting yourself against the grain, you're risking not only your idea being rejected, but your job as well. Finally, I want to talk to you about the class Investor. Now, Investor is going to be where you learn fundamental investing basics. For example, options and futures, as well as the cap-in pricing model. These are financial and mathematical models as to how you can estimate the value of an underlying contract. For example, let's say the stock S&P trades on the stock market, and options contracts will enable you with the opportunity to buy the S&P at a certain price. Options have different pricing models that they use, and one of the main ones is the Black-Scholes model that we discussed in our class. I'm going to read out to you what the cap-in pricing model is and where it's important. The cost of equity is equal to the risk-free rate plus beta multiplied by the equity risk premium. Let me explain to you what this means. Let's consider a risk-free rate of investing. That is, for example, putting your money in a high-yield savings account, or the most commonly stated is a 10-year or 30-year treasury bond from the US. Why are these risk-free? Of course, there's a small chance that the United States economy defaults, but it is considered to be one of the most risk-free ways to invest your money and allow it to grow, other than just holding it yourself. Now, we also multiplied beta by an equity risk premium. What is an equity risk premium? Equities are the things that you trade on the stock market, and they carry a certain risk associated with the premium that they provide. For example, the S&P goes up and down many percentage points over a month, and the volatility is known as the risk. We multiplied the equity risk premium by beta. And what is beta? Let's take the S&P as the benchmark for the stock market. Beta is the volatility component associated with that main stock. As an example, Tesla, which is a tech company, has a beta of over 1, implying that it will be more volatile to the average market found within the S&P. In contrast, a company like Pepsi is going to have a beta less than 1 because large companies that are essential to our economy, like Coca-Cola is, are going to have a much more stable price within the equity markets. Therefore, beta measures the overall volatility expectation to the average basket of goods found within the S&P. So the cap and pricing model is a mathematical approach to the expected return you'll get within, for example, a stock. This is a mathematical approach to calculating the value that you are expected to obtain through a stock. However, something you'll learn in some of the other videos I discuss on this channel is that finance and investing as a whole is not purely mathematical and has a lot of emotions within it. So understand that these are financial models that are not 100% accurate, but are mathematical ways to derive value. Some other classes I took during my first year at business school include hedge fund strategies, behavioral finance, and generative AI and social media. Regardless, you have hundreds of different classes that you can take during your first and second year at business school. And these examples are only a few of the classes that I took during my first year there. So with that, in this video, we talked about the many different things you learn at Yale Business School. Unlike some of the other videos you see online, I wanted to prioritize more than just the classes that you take, because personally, I consider the classes that you take within a business school to be one of the least important opportunities you have during your time there. More important than the classes you take during your time here is networking and having a real opportunity to get a great finance job after you graduate. If you want to learn more about my advice to you as a Yale University student, click on this video right here. And if you want to learn about some of the most important financial skills I learned for reading many books on making money, click on that video right there. And until then, subscribe.